Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. In this video series, we are exploring the Yamas and Niyamas, yoga's ethical practice. Specifically, this book by Deborah Adele is what I am following along with. And we are in week 2 of Ahimsa, where we are talking about finding balance and guarding our balance. So if you're following along in the book, awesome. Then you're there with me. If you're not, I think you'll still get something out of this video. If you're curious, there's another video up on Ahimsa. Ahimsa is the Sanskrit word for nonviolence. And there is a video 1 that posted last week, and prior to that, I also put an intro up. So be sure to go back, check those if you kind of want to catch up with what we're doing here. But with that said, let's jump into week 2. So week 2, question for exploration, is about finding your balance and guarding your balance as you would your most precious resource. And in these times, it is so very hard to do. I think I've been working on this for the last several years in my life and just seeing how this plays out. I am curious to hear just if anyone catches this video. I'm kind of new to YouTube, so I don't exactly have any subscribers right now, but it's been a challenge. It's a challenge to find balance in this world that we live in when we are doing so many things and trying to do and achieve so many things. We are such a great nation of achieving and doing and working ridiculous hours, improving ourselves, and sitting in insane commutes, and getting the kids up for school and getting them to school and getting them picked up and getting dinner on the table, and the lists are endless. So in talking about Ahimsa, nonviolence, that sounds pretty violent to me, especially considering the definition of nonviolence, in which we categorize Ahimsa, which is covered in my last video, that we don't take a lot of time for ourselves. And having events play out in my life that forced me to turn within and really take a very hard pause and sit down with myself and really just see what that means. I really was falling prey to a wildly unbalanced life. As a result, I was not taking care of myself, my mental, emotional, or physical health. And I needed a lot of care, and I needed a lot of self-care and self-love, which we will talk about in this video. That eventually living a life of non-balanced, just not having a balance in your life, for what that means for you. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, but eventually you will succumb and fall prey to what will feel like victimization because of living a non-balanced life. So we're going to start and pick up with the chapter on creating balance, and I'm just going to highlight a couple things for you. We're going to talk about the creating balance chapter, dealing with powerlessness chapter, and the self-love chapter in this video. All right, let's do this. So creating balance. And this was a highlight for me that really struck me hard when I read it. I was like, yes, if I could articulate this any better. It is anti-cultural to claim any space that is simply space, or to move with any kind of lingering, or to take time for closure. We are bombarded, and we bombard ourselves. And if we have any doubts, our calendars reveal the truth of our craziness. The repercussions are inescapable, immeasurable violence to ourselves and those around us. Like the body, the mind and soul need time to digest and assimilate. Like the body, the mind and soul need time to rest. We create this rest by allowing space that we can breathe in. Not more clutter, but more space. Space to reflect, space to journal, space for closure, space for imagination, and space to feel the calling of life force within us. Yes, yes, so much yes. So much yes. One thing that I love, one piece of sweetness in my life that I thoroughly enjoy, is when I am doing yoga, or I'm taking a class, or I'm doing yoga at home, and I just allow myself to take up space. We're so used to doing this. We're so used to getting on the subway and staying to ourselves, staying in our space at work, not taking up too much room or being too much of a burden to anyone else. We're so concerned about that sometimes. And I just love the art of taking up space and thinking about your life and where in your life maybe some things have just taken up too much space and you're not allowing enough space for other things to just take up space. Are you allowing yourself to just take up space and just to be with your thoughts and just to journal and just do these things that maybe are not a part of your life today? And what the repercussions of that are that we take it out on every single person around us. When we don't feel balanced and we're not eating well, we don't feel well, we don't get enough sleep, we don't look good, we don't feel well, we don't get enough exercise, you guessed it, you don't sleep well, you don't look well, and you're just not getting along with others well, you start to lash out. And if you have other people in your home, you're probably taking it out on them at times, maybe the short, quick response. And you can start to see the manifestation around you of how these outward emotions, how you feel and how you color yourself, is the color that you're then spreading into the world, onto this canvas. Your life is your canvas, and it's the color that you're using to spread all around you. And it's not good. It's not positive. It's not loving. And it's violent. It's violence that you're causing yourself, and violence that you're therefore causing other people. And balance comes from listening to the guidance of our own inner wisdom and our own inner voice. And you might be asking, well, how do I do that? And it's truly through a prayer meditation practice. Spending time alone to really tap into your inner wisdom. And that might manifest itself differently for you. Maybe it's through writing, through journaling, maybe it's through thought. But for most of us, I think it is just about being alone and being able to tap into our own inner divine and seeing that manifest itself outside of us. Is so much nicer than seeing a life of imbalance manifesting outside of us. We live this just very westernized world of going, and just, it's okay to sit in 12 hours of traffic every week to go to a job that you might love, you might not love it, but what is it doing, and what are these outward actions doing to the rest of our being? And how is that manifesting and unfolding in its life? For me personally, I've been able to see the contrast, I would say, in about the past year and a half of my life, that I'm not manifesting the things in my personal life that I would like to be manifesting and working on, and dreams and thoughts coming to fruition. And in having this time to step away, currently sheltering in place right now, as I know many people are, but having this pause, while it's had its own different stressors of its own, there's so much going on at this time, and for me to sit here and say I'm not worried about anything would just be such a monumental lie, because I definitely am worried about some things, but for the most part, the big things, the normal that everyone wants to return to, A, is what got us here. But B, I think that for most of us that are introspective, and I hope that a lot of us are taking this time to just be, and whether you're using this time to move forward with things and make things happen and really get things going, or if you've chosen just to take this time to just exist and give yourself time to breathe and just feel yourself breathe and be, and to do nothing, is just as productive, because none of us do that. And it's so important to do that. And the time that I've given myself to do that has just been such a blessing. It's wild how so many of us can go an entire lifetime never knowing what it feels like to stop and to pause. And without beating myself up, looking back on times in my life when I should have tapped into, and I could have. I don't like to live a life of should haves, but I could have tapped into some of the resources that I had around me to really pause when I've had traumatic things happen in my life and honor myself and my balance that way. And I chose not to, and I definitely suffered repercussions because of that. Nothing can't be undone. It just takes time, and to just have this time to be and to just feel and to allow those emotions to be what they are has truly just been such a blessing. Spreading ourselves thin looks impressive, but in the end, we are the first to lose. And I think that's so impactful, because if you're anything like me, you're a doer and you have a very strong mind. And if you have a strong mind, you definitely need to be meditating daily, in prayer daily, and possibly integrating some breath work, pranayama breathing, has been so super helpful for me in daily just managing my mind and creating a balance so that my thoughts are a little bit more leveled out and I'm able to stay present. And that is the key. That's the key really with anything that we're trying to do and do successfully, is staying present instead of being in the moment and being worried about what we have to do next or what the next 4 tasks of our day looks like. Maintaining presence is huge, and it's a lot of work. So I don't say that easy. It's no small thing. So when we create a life of balance, I wanted to talk a little bit about this too. A lot of times when we allow ourselves to just be, that does create a part of ourselves that feels a bit powerless, because we're so used to the doing and we're so used to the controlling that can kind of put us in a space where we feel a bit powerless. So I'm going to talk a bit about the dealing with powerlessness chapter in this book that I think is great. And these were a couple highlights that I had. We fear our own power, and we often feel trapped by our sense of powerlessness. By powerlessness, I mean those times we feel like we've run out of choices. We run out of options and we are feeling totally incompetent to deal with the challenges at hand. So we react like a trapped animal, essentially, which creates, again, violence, anxiety, all of those feelings, all of emotions that are around us. The Ahimsa, or nonviolence, invites us to question the feeling of powerlessness rather than accept it. So with that, huge learnings that I've had over the last couple of weeks being at home is that the things that I have in my life, again, the choices, I talked about this in the last video, maybe decisions that I made for myself 20 years ago or 10 years ago might not be, they may have been good decisions now, self-serving decisions then, may not be honoring or the good, right decision now. And that's okay, and being okay with that. And even within those things that I've been questioning, having moments, and I've definitely had moments in my life over the last couple of years, within the decisions that I've made for myself, just feeling powerless. Feeling like, what else? What if? What if I made different decisions? And getting so wrapped up in that and allowing feeling powerless to just swallow me up. Whether it's been feedback from other people that I've believed may or may not be true. I am a sucker for constructive feedback. I personally love good constructive feedback when people can give it, whether it's a boss at work or a therapist, insert whoever here. However, it doesn't make that person an expert. And a lot of times what someone may or may not see about us may not be the truth. And I have learned how to discern what is the truth from what is just someone's perception of me that is not true. I don't know who said this quote, but it is a favorite quote of mine. What you've come to believe about me is not my responsibility. And the only thing I can control is myself, my own actions, my speech, my words, how that directly will affect another person. But I can't change the way someone else thinks of me. And ultimately, we're all going to come across, and we're all going to work for at some point in our lives, someone that might just not like us for the sake of not liking us. And we'll just do whatever they can do to make life difficult for us. And being able to notice that, but also know that sometimes when we've been at a job and we've been there a long time, or we've been in a situation and we've been there a long time, it can feel like we're trapped. That there is nothing else out there and there's nothing else we can do. And we are, if this offers you any hope at all, I promise you, you are not trapped. You are one decision away from changing things. And that's really what Deborah Adele's talking about here, is that when we feel trapped and we feel powerless, we feel like a cornered cat. And we do start lashing out at those around us. So question those feelings of powerlessness before accepting them is a core practice of Ahimsa, nonviolence. Question those feelings of how powerless you really, really are. We move into self-love. We talk about self-love, self-care. These terms in our lives, and I want to say over the past couple years, I've definitely seen a lot of people awakening. The kids these days call it being woke AF. Woke as fuck. I'll just say it because, I'm not that old, so I'll say it. I've seen a lot of people turning inward, which is amazing. I see a lot of people, a lot of consciousness globally of people just turning within to look for the answers that they just have not been able to find anywhere else. And so these terms of people breaking down, people not creating and guarding balance, people breaking down and turning within and trying to find what else. And hearing these terms have emerged from that. Self-love, self-care. What does that mean? Does it mean that when I've had a stressful day at work, I go home and I draw a bubble bath and this is me practicing self-care? Absolutely. Absolutely. Separating yourself and saying, I've had enough of that and this is what I need right now, is truly self-love and self-care. But it's also deeper than that. Is the rough day a rough week, a rough month, a rough year? Then you don't just need a bath, you need something deeper. There's a deeper problem that lies beneath the problem that is continuing to create this chaos in your life. And really getting down to the core of that, because what she writes about in this chapter is she uses an example of a yoga instructor's son who, it's a little humorous, but I've known children that have had issues with this, and it's really not a walk in the park, but they are sort of afraid to number two, so they hold their stools. It creates absolute havoc on the household when a child is in that kind of pain and strain. That the misery of a toddler or a child that's doing this can really ripple through an entire house and create this outward experience that everyone begins feeling and is affected by. And it's just an example of how we treat ourselves directly ripples to people that are around us. If you're spending your days doing something that you're not happy doing and you've been doing it a really long time, you don't have to do it anymore. But it requires your attention. It requires presence to sit down with it and really just be with it and figure it out. I'll read a couple more highlights I have from this chapter from the book. If we can't be safe with ourselves, others can never be safe with us, and the world can never be a safe place to be. She goes on to talk about when she was living that life. She talks about work at the time job that she was doing and how she was waking up every day. She was hitting the ground running herself ragged, spreading herself so thin, which we all do sometimes, which we all do a lot of times. And she closes that out by saying, when I quit the work and began to bring some ease and pleasure back into my life, all my relationships became more enjoyable and ease filled. So that I thought was really impactful, because I know in my life, sometimes dealing with that kind of stress and dealing with a life that is so out of balance, that a lot of times my connections, my personal relationships, planning and meeting up with a friend in free time, the very little free time that I had, sometimes could feel like work within itself. And when I would meet up with them, it would feel uneasy, because all I really wanted to be doing was at home and sleeping. But I also wanted to be seeing them and building my relationships with them. And I found that it was hard because I wasn't practicing any of this for myself. So I was stress-filled, and I was bringing that to the table when I was meeting with them. And I was even treating meeting with them like I was scheduling a meeting. And it made them feel like I was shoehorning them into a very busy schedule. And that wasn't something that I felt good about either. So again, just another example of how we directly treat ourselves is how we end up treating those that are around us. For week 2 is to guard your balance as you would your most precious resource. You don't find your balance from a place in your head of what you think it should look like. Instead, find guidance from the messages of your body. What do you need? Do you need more sleep? Do you need exercise? Do you need more rest? Do you need more time to pray? Do you need some variety in your life? Act on the messages of your body and explore what balance looks like for you this week. Notice the effects of your life and how that directly affects others. So I felt that was really, really powerful exercise to do. And what I've also noticed in creating balance for myself, again, it's not an idea, it's like Deborah says, it's not an idea of what you think this should look like, what it looks like in your head, coming from a very cerebral place. Balance and having time for everything in our lives that we want to do, or just finding what balance looks like for us, might not be something that really happens for us on a daily basis. For some of us, it might be weekly. For some of us, it might be monthly. But you'll also notice, take time to notice, and I've taken the time to notice, as I've implemented a lot of this balance, a lot of what that has looked like for me has been about creating healthy boundaries, especially with people at work. What you will notice when you know you've given enough and you are stepping back, you will notice the positives, but don't be surprised if that brings forth some negatives. For some people that have come to expect a lot out of you, you may find that the more time and the more balance that you create for yourself creates a rift with some people that are now seeing that you're creating a balance for yourself, and they can't take advantage of you anymore, and they can't take advantage of your time. That was something that I noticed as I've been doing this work to take care of my mental, my physical, and my emotional health as well. So with that, I really hope that you look at that week 2 exercise, that you think more about this Yama of Ahimsa, nonviolence, and all of the many ways that can play out, and how violence can really seep into your life with the best of intentions. And that's the thing. It's never an intentional thing for people to have these things play out in their lives. But a lot of times when they start to play out, this becomes our norm. This becomes just the way that we behave, and this is just the norm for us. And then we don't always see the dysfunctionality that ripples from it until it has just begun to monsoon us, and we feel trapped and we can't get out. So I hope that you please will take some time to sit back this week. Or if you're starting to gear back up at this point and start heading back to work, and companies and jobs are starting to exercise whatever a new normal looks like for us, that you are able to look at balance and guard that balance the way you would your most precious resource. If you need to externalize it, the way that you would protect a child that you saw that was about to run out into traffic. Don't let anyone walk on that balance that you're trying to create for yourself. Can you protect it for 1 week? Be mindful, be present with it, and just see what happens. Just see what kind of shakes out in your life as a result of that. And check in with yourself first before you check in with those around you and you kind of assess how things have been for 1 week. I think you'll be surprised by what you'll find. So thank you for watching. Looking forward to moving on to week 3. I told you that each Yama and Niyama had a lot going on, so it's really hard to talk all about this in one video, but I hope these videos are helping. And if you haven't taken a moment just to thank God today for being alive, please make sure you take a moment and do that now. And until next time, be well.